Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. We are here with special guests today. This is the Boxmasters. We have J.D. Andrew on guitar, Teddy Andreadis on keyboards. Billy Bob Thornton is the front man and drums, and the three of you together are the core of the Boxmasters, correct?
Yeah, we're the recording group.
Okay.
And then we have three additional members when we're on the road, so there's 6 of us on stage because in the studio, we play and sing everything. So we got to bolster it up on stage because we don't have 5 arms and 3 mouths.
Right, right.
A piece.
So leading up to the Boxmasters, Billy, you were doing solo albums. Like when we first met, you played me the tracks from your first album, was just coming out the first time we met, and you did 4 solo albums.
Right.
So how did you move from that to wanting to have a group?
Well, I never wanted to be a solo artist really because I grew up in bands, and that's the whole joy of it is to be a part of a band, and also there's less pressure on you when you're in a band. But I had just finished this solo record called Beautiful Door, or was finishing it. The record was just was me and Ted and Brad Davis, who's here, the lead guitar player, and an old pal who we, between the 3 of us, we've been playing together over 20 years. And Lee Sklar was a bass player on it. And so it was just the 4 of us, and we made the record. And our engineer, Jim Mitchell at the time, who I think you've met,
Yep,
Jim.
sure.
And he got a job working for a television network as a sports engineer, for NFL and different things like that. And the record wasn't finished, so through a mutual friend, J.D. and I met each other, and because I needed somebody to finish the record, do some overdubs and things like that. A lot of vocal stuff, really, some drums, and so J.D. came in, and so he and I were stuck in the studio together all the time, and this was back in my old studio that you've seen, and we were together a lot, and one night we recorded a song, just the 2 of us. We liked the way it sounded, and we started talking about the British invasion and started listening to some British invasion stuff, because my solo records weren't really what some of the singer-songwriter kind of stuff, and I'm sort of a British invasion kid. I grew up on the Beatles and also the Byrds and the Memphis Sound and all that kind of stuff. So we started listening to these records, and J.D. and I recorded Yesterday's Gone by Chad and Jeremy. And we liked that too. We did kind of a hillbilly version of it. So the first official Boxmaster song was Yesterday's Gone. And so we decided, wouldn't it be fun to take the sort of British invasion vibe and idea and marry it up with hillbilly music. So we did 2 records that way. And they weren't really what we sound like at all, but we loved it. And
but
the people
had fun doing it, yeah.
Had a lot of fun doing it, and the people who got it and got the sort of Frank Zappa-esque sense of humor on them, they really got it. And then the people who didn't get it at all. And so there wasn't any middle ground there,
Right.
And so that's how the Boxmasters were formed, and we named the band with a name that just sounded like the 60s, the Box Tops, the Buckinghams, stuff like that.
Right.
So we called ourselves the Boxmasters. And the original group was me and J.D. and Mike Butler, who moved away eventually. And then after that, we started making records just the way we sound, which is more along the lines of guys who grew up on the Beatles and the Byrds. So we got
we had a few years where we just only recorded. We kind of took some time off the road and really worked on just writing whatever we felt like, which we did that. We just recorded songs. We kind of recorded some concept kind of records, just kept working. And then finally in 2015, we teamed up with a label out of Nashville and put out a record called Somewhere Down the Road, which is more of the natural sound of, guys just picking up instruments and playing that love the British invasion and the Byrds and the Kinks and stuff like that. And so since then, we've released a record at least every year and sometimes twice a year. So we've just put out our 8th record called Spec.
Right.
And now we're out on tour
Right.
supporting it.
It's interesting looking back at the three of you have a very diverse kind of background. You do a lot of engineering and a guitar player. And Teddy, you have some credits that are not necessarily in the British invasion thrust as well. How did the three of you come together? What does that bring to the mix when the three of you have
Well,
that diverse
I
background?
met Billy because Billy, I worked with Slash and Guns and those guys. Billy had bought Slash's house, so I was always hanging around there anyway. And the engineer said, hey, Billy Bob Thornton's going to start a band, you want to come down and play on some stuff, and because Billy had all the gear there, so I would just kind of hang around and go down the house, and, like I always did when Slash was there, and we just started recording. And then when he finally said, we're going to put a band together, I went, okay. And Alice, I think I was playing with Alice Cooper at the time, and he was a little bit, okay, I'm gonna do this instead, and I haven't looked back. We've been with Billy ever since 03 or something like that. So.
Right. It's awesome. So the new album, as you mentioned, Spec, is just coming out as we're talking here, and you guys are on tour supporting that. One of the hallmarks, if you will, of that record is that you worked with Geoff Emerick, and it was actually his last project. Tell us about working with Geoff, how you made that connection, and how that affected the album.
Well, we had known Geoff over the years, for a dozen years anyway, and he was always a fan of the band, and which was quite an honor for us that the Beatles engineer liked us, So he would mention every now and then, yeah, I'd like to mix one of you guys' songs sometime. And he came by A&M over there, or Henson it's called now, and talked to Ferriel, the studio manager, said, hey, what are those guys up to? Tell them I said hey, and all this kind of thing. She said, well, they're in here recording now. So Geoff called me up, and he said, yes, good to talk to you again, all this kind of thing. And he said, maybe I could mix one of the songs. And we said, sure. Geoff had a place he likes to work over in the valley there, which is really, it's a studio just made into a little bungalow house.
Yeah, it's called LAFX.
LAFX, yeah.
It's just got it's a really kind of old school analog studio in a house. It's a weird place, but Geoff liked working there, and the gear was great, and what we ended up with was amazing. So.
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, we were a little hesitant at first because the snacks at A&M are much better. But
It's critical.
yes, but one way or the other, when Geoff mixed the first song, which is actually the first song on the record, as it turns out, three of us went in there and listened to it, and just instantly, you heard things that we're used to hearing on Beatle records. Like the lead vocal sound, it was like, oh wow, it hit us right away. It's like, that's what he did to John Lennon. And piano or a guitar, or just a drum sound, anything that was so familiar to us, and we said, well, how's about you just produce the record, And so he ended up producing the record. And, we got in there and did some things that we knew about because of having read Geoff's book and just having talked to him over the years. Tea towels on the drums on certain songs, and, I was playing mallets on cardboard boxes that they found in the trash can, things like that. He had a couple of suggestions for horns that, we'd already wanted to put horns on there, but weren't sure exactly where. And he had this idea on a song where to do, which song to do that on, and just some really cool stuff. And we would gurm him all the time, and ask him stories.
Well, we didn't have to ask him as much. I mean, honestly, because his whole formative life was spent with the Beatles, and so kind of anything you would kind of just be talking about something, and he'd just say, well, yeah, there's this one time Paul did this, and we were, in this place. It's like, he's talking about Paul McCartney. It's like, all of his stories were, involving those guys, just because he spent so much time with them.
Right.
All of his experiences were basically with those guys. It's like mind-blowing.
Right.
Yeah, he was a teenager when he first started working for him.
Right. So what is the process for writing the songs? Do you come in with lyrics first? Do you have riffs first? Or how does the song evolve?
Different ways. It's always from inspiration, though. We don't have writing sessions. We never just call each other up and say, hey, let's go in the studio and write an album. That never happens. One or the other of us will come to the other guys with some music. Usually it starts with a lyric for a chorus or a verse or something, and a melody. So usually a few chords and a melody is how something starts out. And then, you call the other guys. I'll send it over to JD on my voice recorder off the phone and go, hey, listen to this. What do you think of that? And then we'll play it for Teddy, and he'll go, oh, yeah, that's pretty good. And then we'll end up all getting together. So we all do the music. I usually write the lyrics, and it's all done different ways. And obviously Ted, as a keyboard player, will bring something different at the table because JD and I write on guitar, which is a different animal. So he'll come in with some wacky piano chords. And he's like, what if we did this? And we're like, wow, that sounds cool. We don't know how to do that.
Right.
And we end up having something really unique.
Well, in all fairness, though, I mean, these guys, I could leave the room to go to the bathroom. I come back and they're working on, so what is that? Oh, it's something else which started. What? I haven't been gone that long. Right.
We write a lot of songs.
A lot of songs.
We've probably got 200 that aren't on any records that are just sitting there waiting. And on this, like even on Spec, there were songs that were specifically written for the for the record, probably 6 or 7 of them, but then there's 3 or 4 on there that we've had since 2009 or 2010 that we thought, you know what, remember this song? That'll fit this if we just go back into it and maybe, let's say, take the Farfisa off of it and put a B3 on it instead, or the other way around, whatever it is that we can make everything sonically fit the record, but we know that thematically and everything that the song would fit the record. So we do a lot of that. So some records are, Frankenstein from other sessions,
Sure.
Yeah.
So are there particular hallmarks that you call out to make something sound like a British Invasion song, to give it that jangle, if you will, that you'd recognize as being from that era?
12-string, Farfisa, Continental organ, yeah, a lot of that.
And jangly guitar, just like you said. It's like it's one of the stepping stones of the songs.
Are there arrangements that you need to do, or do you say we can't do this, we can't use this because it's not going to sound like?
Yeah, well, quite a bit. And we have, when we go to the studio, we don't take a bunch of stuff. We have a 1965 AC30, we got a 62 Ampeg B15, great 66 P bass, I got a Rickenbacker bass, a Hofner bass. So we stick to those and some Rickenbacker guitars, and we kind of limit the stuff that we can use, but it's still, at the same time, it's the stuff we have anyway. It's it's just like, okay, we'll just grab these, and it's just, that's the stuff we love. We love those sounds. We love the records from that era. When you have that stuff and that's your influences and that's what you're drawing from, that you've listened to all your life, it's kind of just how you play. And so it's just kind of ingrained in your DNA that these are the sounds I like, and these are how I like the songs to sound. This is how we like song structures. It's just all part of you. And so you're not exactly going, oh, I'm going to play this part from this Dave Clark 5 song. It's just those songs are just so ingrained in you that you just kind of draw from them, and that just comes out in your fingers or your mouth or however you play the instrument.
Although we did actually swipe a Dave Clark 5 chord from that song because...
Well, yeah, because they used every chord known
what's
to
that
man.
chord there? Let's use that. I like that. That's so 60s. But, also, JD was talking about the gear there. We have a bunch of stuff in storage that before we hit the road this time, we literally just finished a new record, even though we're touring with one now. We wanted to make a garage band record. So we did it, finished it, it's all mixed and everything. And within just, 2 or 3 weeks before we hit the road. And on that record, we brought in some of the stuff from the storage unit, like we have a Silvertone amp in the case, with the Silvertone guitar. We used that. And, some little amps. We got a Harvard and, some different things like that we also brought in just to use, like, primarily for, like, rhythm guitars on different songs, that just gave it an added thing. And and we always make a joke about how we bring our really old-fashioned stuff out, like our junk out, and that's when we at some point or another, somebody gets shocked. Right. Because when I was a kid, it was part of being a band was getting shocked all the time. So this Silvertone amp, You don't want to mess with, you don't want to touch anything metal while you're messing with that thing.
Yeah, grounding is optional in some of
Yeah,
the
exactly.
vintage too, right. So do you guys track all at once as a band, or do you layer things together?
It's mostly layered. I think these guys will come in first. They'll put drums. I think they've never needed me in the beginning. So actually, I've never actually seen.
Yeah, I mean, you've been there at some
I've
of
been
them,
there, but it's usually like, do I need to come down today? Do you guys need me? No, we got it. But we've done stuff before together.
But most of the time,
it's
it's
just easier.
Me and Billy in the studio, and so we'll lay down kind of the scratch and what the song is, what the structure is, and then Billy will play the drums, and then I'll play bass and some guitars, and then we'll sing it. And we try to do it as like we were playing at the same time, but it's just not physically possible with only two people in the studio. So somebody's got to hit record on the box a little bit. But we've done it like this for, nearly 13 years. So it's really simple for us to we know how we build a song. And
we know how to make it sound live.
Yeah, it doesn't take very long either. It's like we're playing from the top to the end. We're not, just stopping and, okay, we're just doing the verses now. No, we just hit go at the top of the song, play it, move on, next track.
Right.
And so that's kind of how we get lots of stuff done, and makes it feel like we are a band playing all at the same time, even though there's, 4 Billies, 6 me's, maybe 2 or 3 Teddies.
And now that Billy, we don't have the studio anymore. The comfort of using Billy's studio, we have to go to a regular studio and pay for it. So it's like you want to get in and get out. So
Right.
So.
That's why we don't write at the studio.
Right.
Time-consuming stuff at home.
Who wants to do that?
Yeah.
All of our songs are ready to record when we get to the studio.
Okay.
They've all been written, and we will have, like, what we go off of is we just listen to the acoustic guitar and vocal that we've laid down on a little recorder or something. So when we get in there, it's pretty finished. It's not to say that sometimes we don't, during the middle of recording a song, we go, you know what, this song actually needs a middle 8, so maybe, and we'll write that while we're in the studio maybe. So that happens occasionally.
When it comes time to then take the show on the road, you guys tour several months a year, at least, right? You're working with other musicians. You have Eric Rhodes on drums and Brad Davis, you mentioned, on guitar. Great musicians you're working with. What do you look for from those musicians to take what you've recorded and to put it on the stage?
Well, they've been with us so long, and it's like,
Brad's been with Billy the longest, because he was from before even the first record was recorded. But Eric's been with us for about 5 years, and Raymond Hardy, who's playing bass with us this tour, he's been a guitar tech with us for on and off for 10 years. Yeah. And when our normal bass player had to stay home this time, he said, well, you should have Raymond play, he's great. And so we did, because we like having our guys that we know that are our family, that we've spent a lot of time.
Right.
And so it's great to just have pals you can call on. Hey, we're going to go hit the road.
You get used to a specific horrible smell from people. Like we all have our unique, pungent, horrible odor. And once you get that kind of mixture in there, looking at you. But we have to, once you get used to that, that certain chemistry, it
sort of establishes the vibe, right?
It does.
Pheromones, right?
We're so glad you guys took the time to drop by today. I know you contacted us and wanted to come over and have a visit here at Sweetwater, and we're thrilled to have you here. And I know you guys have been customers here, right?
No.
Oh yeah,
for years. Yeah,
I had no idea this was like this.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, it was just like this is. People should come out and see this, because this is mind blowing.
Yeah.
What you guys have out here, it's really one of a kind. I've never seen anything like it.
And you guys got to go down the slide. I saw you go down a couple of times.
I did. Right? I took a video of going down the slide, so I'm going to show my kids when I get home, and they're going to be really jealous.
All right.
So.
He'll be adding one of those in his backyard.
There you go. There you go.
Well, that thing's, you'd have to go from the top of the roof, down to the ground.
It is a good size slide.
Too long.
Right. Well, we know you're playing in Indianapolis tomorrow night, and you're out for about a month more, right, on the tour for
July 2nd. Yeah, was when we started. And we're
halfway through almost.
Yeah, July 2nd.
We end August 11th.
Okay.
So-
It's about 6 weeks then.
So
next round.
we've got
August
we've got a
11th.
bunch of shows in Texas coming up. We got 12 shows I think in Texas, and then we'll get out to the West Coast. We got 5 shows to kind of wrap it up in the California, Vegas, and then we'll go back home and start working on another record.
You got one done already, so you always got to stay one ahead,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
We've got more than one ready. It's
Oh,
just a
yes.
matter of trying to get the label to start gearing up for another one.
Right.
So hopefully we'll sell enough on the road that we can start prepping them to do the next one, and then start planning a tour for that.
Make sure you include the Sweetwater stop on the next tour. We'd love to have you play out in the pavilion. It'd be
absolutely.
a blast to have you guys
Yeah.
play out there.
That's very cool. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that you guys have all this is astounding. I mean, it's a city,
Pretty much, yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's not. I think people are surprised when they come that it's not.
Yeah, I'd like
quite
to.
what
I would
they
love to
picture.
record here, so we'll see.
Yeah, the studios
never
would be happy to welcome you as well. So yeah, please come back. Great to see you.
Excellent.
Thank
thanks,
you so
Mitch.
much.
JD,
Appreciate it.
Teddy,
Thank you so much, Mitch.
Billy,
Thank
great to
you,
see you
man.
again.
All right, buddy.
Thanks very much. And thank you for joining me for the Sweetwater Minute. I'm Mitch Gallagher.